All right, let's get into it. This is the final campaign recap for Fantastic Five. Any of you who have been keeping up, thanks for joining us on this journey. Um, but yeah, let's get back into it. All right, so session 126. So this picks up in the middle of the dragon arc. We were attempting to rescue a bunch of the fallen slash feral dragons. At this point, we were on Karel, trying to get to Jamon. Um, yeah. Let's see. This was. We had already talked to them about trying to help Jamon. So, um, enter the castle, go to the throne room, and we are thrust into his memories. This is a bit of living some scenes. Let's see, Val is in sees his last moments during a war meeting as Bahamut falls, and we go feral. Are taken not prisoner, but not necessarily taken down, but put to sleep. Um, Petra gets a memory of an attack on the city where they help to fight off some bandits or a caravan, actually, of some kobolds and wyverns who are kidnapping people from the city. And then Rux gets a memory. Again, War Room. This is a little bit after that kobold attack, where we learn of the Cinder King, Thordak. Thordak attacks the town, and Jamon is head to head. We fight them off, and that's that. And then Lucia's memory is immediately after the battle. Sort of talking to some survivors and inspiring the remaining townsfolk. And after all of those memory palace events, stitch his mind back together, and Jamon is all back to normal. We tell them about everything that's going on, about how we rescued Adelon and Yusa, ask for help, and they say that they will, and we sort of ask for Broomstone for our ships. After that, yes, we have the ball, inviting all of the foreign assistance that we're getting. So this is a lot of getting ready. Evilier is worried about who they're gonna invite. Rux tells Evelyn about the Raven Queen deal. Petra talks to Liana, Evelyn's Liana, and asks how they got married. and reveals that she is planning to propose to Herliana. Um, let's see. We have a bit of a time skip. We were able to secure Broomstone for our airship and for some of the other ships in the Quadrumvirate's Air Force. Jamon has agreed to send aid from Ankarel. And yes, let's see. Val goes to the Exemplar to talk with Farron. Figures out how the knights are getting settled. She invites him as her +1. And I think this is after he had given up his post as a Shadow Hand, or I don't know if he's Shadow Hand, but his dynasty post. Decides to agree to go as a representative of the knights. Rux checks in on Turok's village, which seems to be recovering well. Raz is also in recovery. His old is some jobs for the Quadrumvirates. Ball starts. Town is bustling with foreigners, of course. Let's see. All of the bigwigs are there. Thalos family, Bright Queen Cerberus Assembly, King Imithon, Gunhild, Marquis of the Coast, and the representative from Ankarel. Extra planar folks. Ton of NPCs, and of course, Evilir's +1 ends up being the Moonweaver herself, which is cause for many shenanigans. Mob Thalos is not happy that Zunala and Varen are there. Everyone is announced. Trent shows up instead of the princess. I think this is the moment where everyone comes to terms with Trent being the de facto head of the Empire, or the Empire's forces. The Bright Queen gives a welcoming speech, announces the unification of the Quadrumvirate, and Val also gives a speech introducing the knights, asking the continent for recruits, and the ball begins. Lots of shenanigans between Evilir and the Moonweaver. Ranael was supposed to be his +1, but the Moonweaver showed up, and now she thinks that he's like two-timing her, which was very funny. Val talks to Bro and sees how things are going at Vasselheim. Some small talk about the knights. Let's see. Lucia and Petra talk to Risen and Gunhild. The Gunhild talks about expansion work in Uthadern. Risen's been helping train the Quadrumvirate pilots. Let's see. Rux goes to talk to the Shadowfell people who are arm wrestling. And they're tense, but they're getting along. So he checks in about Shadowfell stuff. Discussions are still continuing between the two factions. And Rux adds another title to his list of titles by winning an arm wrestling contest. Yes, Evilir and the Moonweaver. I don't think the Moonweaver actually got drunk, but they ate a lot of food. Evilor gets some drugs from Glimmer. The Bright Queen tries to get Evilor to get the Moonweaver under control, which he sort of does. And Petra checks in with Glimmer to see if Trent is snooping. And things are going well. Jeremy, yes. Jeremy, the definitely not the Moonweaver. Um, let's see. So Evil-Ear tries to figure out what to do with the Moonweaver, who is just eating all of the food at the buffet. Oh yes, Trent takes a notice and tries to talk to the Moonweaver. Evil-Ear intercepts. Trent tries to cast a spell at the Moonweaver, and Petra notices, and then counterspells, and he drops it and leaves. Let's see. Val and Varen go talk to Allura to see what Tal'Darai is gonna do. And they discuss the new base that's being started by Vasselheim. Not or more Petra planting her seed stuff as she dances with the Bright Queen. They talk about the Queen's wife and the unification of Exandria. Quadrumvirates will lead as a council, so no one power for everything. Lucia tries to talk to her mom, and Bob Thalis is just very annoyed that Trent is sticking his nose in everything. Oh no, the orchestra parts. So Lucia talks to Evil-Ear, and Evil-Ear is still trying to figure out what to do about the Moonweaver, and asks what kind of music the Moonweaver likes. And so Lucia talks to the orchestra, and they play some song that the Moonweaver says is like the music of her people, but I'm pretty sure she was definitely trolling. It ends poorly, and the queen confronts Evil-Ear again and is like, I'm going to have to ask you to tell your guest to leave. And she finally agrees to chill out, and she disappears. Oh man, the ball session was so good. I forgot that all of this stuff happened. So Rex finds what's his nuts, Archmage Theseus, and goes to talk to him inside his magical mansion, and tells him that he doesn't like Trent, and asks about how things among the Empire people are doing, and Aesthesius will neither confirm nor deny things, but says that Trent will not be missed. Although, spoiler alert, we don't do anything about Trent. Imagine kicking a god out of your party, right? Although I don't know that the Bright Queen ever realized that she was the Moonweaver, but very funny nonetheless. Let's see. Lucia talks with Varen. And I think this is where she kind of gets an idea that Val and Varen might be a thing. Um, they sneak out for a bit and wander the streets. And she supports him for leaving his post and standing up to Mom Thalis. They have a soft and tender moment. Um, let's see. We all regroup. Evelyn is very drunk after having had to deal with the Moonweaver all night. Um, let's see. Rux talks with Curvin about the ship. I think this is probably about the Broomstone stuff. And then Rux and Gunhill dance, and we start a whole dance party among everyone. Zunala is super drunk and starts dancing, and we have a whole dance party. Um, oh, I forgot. Euler used plant growth to cover the dance floor in roses, because of course he does. Um, and Lucia cannot control Zunala because Zunala drunk. Uh, Petra eventually sneaks off with Liana, proposes, and Varen kisses Val. So, good night for everyone. Yes, evil air plant growth. Um, let's see. Ah, and after the ball, this is where we time skip. I think this is a couple sessions of downtime, air quotes downtime. Do some stuff. Rux asks Morgan for flying lessons so he can pilot the airship. He writes out a whole like flight manual for him so he can teach everyone else how the ships work. Val goes to Vasselheim to oversee the start of the night base outside the city. They've started on the foundation. Oh yes, there's that weird new night person there, but he didn't really show up again after. Someone who looked very, very Baney. So Val went to talk to her. Yes, she was a runaway from Aor, that's what it was. She has a crystal, a Bane crystal like in her chest, and she uses that to channel her Stormlight. Which was very interesting. Uh, uh, and yes, this is when Val starts doing leader stuff. So she goes around to a bunch of a couple different cities, I think, spreading the word about the Oath Gates, which are these like teleportation devices that are specifically installed for knights to use. People are cautious, but I think she is successful. This part. She also meets up with the like higher representatives of each specific order of knights. But again, they don't really come up again later, so this is unfortunately lore that gets swept away. Uh, Evilier. Oh yes, he goes back to the coast to clear things up. Um, he clears out his old home. from Undead. He runs into Sagape, who has, I guess, defected from the pirates and is working on escorting like refugees away from the coast. Which, come to think of it, shouldn't she have known Evil-Ear? I feel like Evil-Ear was part of the party when we did the whole over that pirate island, Darktoe. That's when we met Sagape, but oh well. Unless he was only talking to the other guy, to Flint, the pilot. Yeah, I don't remember if they actually had face-to-face time or not, but maybe it was just us that knew that Sagape was there and not Evil-Ear himself. But yes, Evil-Ear went there specifically to, besides clear out his house, he wanted to go check out the Telebar Manor, which is the home base of his old like mob boss higher ups. And he finds a group of people who are like hiding out there, including the dad of his ex-fiance, who does not like him, obviously. And Evil-Ear doesn't take it well. He sort of drinks himself back into alcoholism for a while, but he escorts everyone out safely. And kinda travels for a bit before heading back home, which he is super depressed. But Lucia ends up giving him a pep talk and compares his situation with Thurviel to her situation with Zunala, and they sort of patch things up a bit. Let's see, Petra goes to Marquette. Oh yes, this part. So she finds out that her myriad people are in Marquette, and so she stalks them out and has this really vicious fight scene, which we only get vague descriptors of, but they're like holed up in some hut, like off in the desert or in a forest somewhere. They're like surrounded by an anti-magic field, and she has to go in and just murder them barehanded, basically, because no magic. She nearly dies, and Liana freaks out because Liana, but she gets the job done, and puts a close to that story. Yes, just for vibes. Honestly, great vibes though, and that magazine cover for this bit was very good. Rux goes to Vasselheim to pray at the Raven Queen Temple, seek knowledge on Orcus. Yes, we haven't done Orcus yet. Oh, this is gonna be a fun recap. So Rux asks about how to get to the Hells. she suggests asking the Bright Queen for ways to survive and tells us that there are two different portals that we can use to get to Thanatos. One under Craghammer, one under Bazozan. Um, let's see. He also tells us that Marcus's soul is likely in his personal vault and asks that if we are to free him, if it would be possible to free some other souls, that would be great. Um, let's see. Oh, he also asks for clarification on what his job is going to be, and he's basically Grim Reaper, which is fine. And then Petra does some volunteer work in Uthadern, doing cleric things. She dreams Evelyn to tell her about it, and I'm pretty sure she got scolded for not visiting Evelyn and using her as an excuse for Liana, because this is how Petra works. It was not fine. Uh, let's see. This is more downtime, I think. Um, yes, Rux teaches Petra how to fly the ship, and we go visit Marcus's grave. This was sad. We get confronted by a Bane ship, but was it, or is it a Bane ship? No, I think it was a pirate ship. Um, maybe it was a Bane possessed pirate. I don't remember. But um, Petra managed to pirates. Yes, pirates. Okay. Um, Petra manages to convince him that we are just there to visit a grave, and so we're allowed to pass. Um, the spells that Kayla casts have sort of created a like giant plant guardian that protects the place. Um, but also we realize as we go there that the place is like slowly still being corrupted. Um, is Marcus's body still in his grave? That's a good question. I wonder if hmm that that's a good question. I was thinking about that if we would have to like go back to his grave and like bring his body, but I don't know. Crazy god magic. Um, Rex tells Petra what he found out from the Raven Queen about fighting Orcus, and they hype themselves up basically. We give Marcus's soul a pep talk, which strengthens the plant guardian there. Get out. Let's see. Visit farm. Uh, oh yes, Evilier and Jory. Uh, Jory is not pleased to see Evalir again, and Evalir is not pleased to see Val's grandma again. Um, oh yeah, we went to pick up Petra's brother because we were taking people to visit Evelyn because Rux was gonna bring Roz to see Evelyn too. Um, so Rux and Roz and Petra and Petra's brother all go visit Evelyn. And because we're telling Evelyn about Marcus and going to fight Orcus, right? Yes. But she needs to talk to Liana first because, of course. Um, yes, party at Evelyn's house always, even though she's an entire continent away. Party at Evelyn's. Um, we talked to the queen. Oh yes, so we told Evelyn, and Evelyn's like, "He has to talk to Liana," and we're like, "Okay, we have to figure out how we're gonna stay safe down there anyway. We have to talk to the Bright Queen." So we we leave Evelyn, and then we go talk to the Bright Queen and ask her, and she tells us about the Craghammer portal, but she's hiding a way to stay safe. And after some prodding, convince her to tell us that a beacon would be able to protect us. She doesn't want to give us a beacon because um obviously a beacon is like very important to Luxon, and having something that could contain the souls of her people is huge. But also we have an empty beacon, and for whatever reason she thought we would just like keep it, but convince her to let us borrow a beacon, and we end up deciding to take the Craghammer because Bazozan portal is gonna be super difficult comparison. Um no, so it's not an empty beacon, it's a Bane beacon. Did we end up keeping that one? I thought that was the one that we ended up using for the Marcus research. Um but yes, so the queen gives us a Bane beacon, and in order to use it, we have to purify it. So we bring it all the way out to the Ghostlands, and we do like a purification ritual on it. Um, Petra uses legend lore, which has worked wonders for us throughout this campaign. Actually, between rescuing Edelon and then the beacon, and then a couple other things, I think. But we got some visions of Bane stuff. Bane fighting Hoyd. Bane taking in his shard of the Luxon. And then we get teleported inside the beacon. And we have to fight like Bane's essence within it, which takes the form of Lysandra. Um, and the beacon becomes a Luxon beacon. Um, we check in with Alora to see if she knows anything about Craghammer, to which she says yes. Uh, Get news that Dark Toe is heading towards the. Let's see. Lucia gets some visions, and she figures out that we'll need Night Blood to kill Bane. Um, and she gets her moral quandary of whether she will ascend and become God, or just let the shard be. Oh no! So we did actually learn that. So she can either absorb the shard and become a god, or she can give up her boon, let the Luxon reform, but then it would break her connection to the Luxon. So what she did, yeah, everything happened as the vision said. I I had forgotten about this vision. It was a whole 20 sessions ago. Um, let's see. So Val gets news from Vasselheim that there are Bane forces in the area of the new Night base, and they're asking for help. So Val is like, sure. So Val leaves. And conveniently, Liana says that Evelyn can come with us. So we pick up Evelyn after dropping off Val in Vasselheim. And we go to Amon. We talk to Allura, and she tells us a bunch of stuff. She gives us a lore dump on Craghammer. Um, and about a way to get into the Underdark, which is where the portal. There is a quarry that has had some issues with undead and miners disappearing, and they've put out a what's the word? Like a bounty for um people to go into the quarry and figure out what's going on. So that's our way in, basically. She gives us a letter of introduction, which gets us into the city. And then we go to the quarry and talk to the foreman. We're like just explaining that we're there for the job, and then a bunch of undead attack. So we fight some zombies. They're definitely not Quran zombies, which we take note of. But we decide to head into the tunnels. I feel like we get lost at some point. Smells strongly of death and rotting corpses. Lots of underground exploring. Um, oh yes, we find an abandoned town. Do a bit of looting. And we find a figure. Find a drow with a spider mount. Yes. And she gives us some sass because we're trespassing in her old town. But tell her that we're here to deal with the undead, and she agrees to us. And she's wearing a necklace with the symbol of Lolth. She's a Lolth drow. Yes, Sarene. Sarene. um, of the spiders of the fat ass, as we so lovingly called them. Um, but there were certainly some back and forth between her and Lucia as to the whole, hey, you're a drow, and pretending to be like Loth drow. Um, let's see. Oh yeah, the purple worm zombies and the Death Knight. That was a fun fight. Um, let's see. Death Knight was a drow that got zombified. Yeah, I feel like there was something with like Evil Ear falling into a hole, or like they burrowed a tunnel and something something. I remember that being a very dynamic fight. Um, let's see. We get to a fork in the road and we find some prisoners. We rescue the. Oh yeah, there's a Death Knight. It's like about to awaken, and they're sacrificing prisoners to like empower the soul to awaken it. But we kill the skeletons that are doing the ritual, so the Death Knight doesn't wake up. Um. Oh yeah, that was when Evil Ear and Evelyn was such a fun dynamic. But yes, we managed to rescue the prisoners. It's a bunch of like miners and then a bunch of drow. And they're very tense with each other. They're like, "Oh, drow are bad." And the drow are like, "Oh, let's want to go home." Um and so since we have Sareen with us, we're able to sort of influence the decision, and we have the drow escort the dwarves back to like town, I guess, overground. Um, yes, and then what? Oh yes, we go back to the fork and go down the other way. Ah yes, and here we get to mummy, the mummy lord at the end of this tunnel, and this is presumably where all the undead are coming from. So we fight him, Kamed. Um, Oh yeah, there was someone invisible who helped us in the fight, but we were never able to figure out who because none of us could roll high enough perception. Um, this fight was really bad. This was Evil Ear's first death. Um, but we brought him back. There was a cursed box and a bunch of loot and stuff. We ended up. Oh yeah, the anti-heals. Um, we managed to cleanse the box, and that had like the heart of the mummy, I think. And by killing the heart, we stop the like spawning of undead. Um, we keep the box as our proof, and this is where we go our separate ways from Sareen. Or rather, so we find the portal in Sareen, and we figure that that's where the Mummy Lord came from. So Sareen wants to destroy it, but we need to use it to get to Orcus's lair realm. And so this is where we split ways. We go through the portal, and then she destroys it. And lo and behold, this teleports us to Karan's manor, which we were not expecting at all. And um, Torian is working as one of her underlings. Um, and basically Karan offers us a deal where she will get us to Orcus and potentially help us in the fight, but she wants to take over when Orcus dies. We have a bit of a uh, internal conflict as to what we're gonna do, and we definitely did not plan this far ahead, and so it was a lot of okay, we could either fight her here, we could just leave, we could take the deal, but we had only planned so far as to getting to the abyss. We had no idea what to do when we get there. We had no idea where Orcus would be, how to get to his vault, and we ended up deciding that we would work with her, that she would teleport us straight to his lair. It would be our job to get to the basement where the vault is. And then we tentatively decided that if the fight went well, we would maybe consider fighting her after we beat this. But spoiler alert, we don't. um, so we have a little back and forth. We zone of truth her. Um, we make sure that she won't betray us. And basically, she did not like that Orcus partnered with Bane. She doesn't like Bane. She just likes undead. So she wants Orcus out of the picture. Um, we argue, but it's fine. Come to an agreement. Um, so we long. Well, no, she teleports us. Okay, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. This is a lot of exploring her manor. Okay, yeah, we talk to her. Oh yeah, she tells us about the doorkeepers, which are the bodyguards, or well, not bodyguards, the personal guards for Orcus's vault. Yeah, this session was a lot of talking. Uh, oh yes, so yes, we get teleported over, and we realize how important Val is to us stealthing because we cannot stealth through Orcus's manor to save our life. We failed what 3 or 4 stealth checks in a row because we had no pass without trace. We did not want to use like greater invisibility, and so we had to fight a bunch of skeletons, a gargoyle, and a Baylor before we got to the basement. And then once we got to the basement, we had to fight the doorkeepers, which was freaking. So it was like this Bane controlled what? Celestial, I think. Not Bane. Orcus controlled Celestial, and then a giant Hellhound Cerberus thing. Um, but Petra did something super cool by going into the ethereal plane and severing like her connection, get the connection from the vault to her soul, which like paralyzed her for a few rounds, and so we were able to kill the dog and then killed her. Did we kill her? I don't even. Um, we freed her. Well, we freed her soul. Um, that's right. There was a puzzle or like a bunch of pillars with bowls on top of them, and so we had to like bleed into the bowls in order to unlock the door to the vault. Um, and we also like very casually walked towards the vault because we had to go through the bag of holding and distribute potions and stuff because we didn't want a short rest. So everyone's like, okay, how many heals can we drop? How many greater healing potions are we gonna chug? And Orcus is just sitting there in the vault, like waiting for us to enter. Um, we, oh man, the Orcus fight was insane. I feel like the Orcus fight was the opposite of the Bane fight, which I'll get into detail about the Bane fight later. But there were so many minions in the Orcus fight. It was like zombie hordes. There was I don't even remember what else, but there were like tons and tons of minions. Um, but we did end up winning. It was rough. Um, so we get free reign of the vault. Oh yeah, there was a lich. That's what it was. He was like throwing out counter spells and stuff. Uh, but yes, there are all of these soul orbs, and we don't know where Marcus is. So go searching for everything. We do eventually find him using detect thoughts, and at first he thinks that this is another scheme by Orcus. Convince him that he's safe. Um, they almost get stuck in like his mind palace while trying to connect to him, but break free. And they're able to take the Marcus orb, aka the Morb. Let's see.
Hi, Evil Ears here.
Oh, hello, you made it.
I got tired of getting my ass beaten in Ender's Game, so I needed a break.
Okay. Um, I am currently at session 138 if you want to follow along in the notes. But I'm going over, we just finished the Orcus fight.
That was a time.
So, let's see. Karan shows up, and we're like, this is where we said we were gonna fight her, but we had literally used everything to fight Orcus. And she's like, you can leave now. We're like, fine. Um, Also, yes, Sarah is in chat if you want to um, chat with her. But um, yes, we take her offer. She sits in Orcus's throne and teleports us back to the Ghostlands. So we're like bloody and out of spell slots, but we have the Morb. Um, let's see. We do a bit of Arcana checking, and we realize that Marcus's soul is broken. So we're gonna have to figure out something with that before we can do um, any sort of reviving. But we get back home, long rest, and Clarence tells us that we are immediately requested for duty to go assault Darktail. So we're like, yeah, sure, whatever. Um, Oh yes, and everyone has to roll wisdom saves to avoid Orcus's influence. And who failed? It was Lucia, it was Evil-Ear, and they had some wild things. Um, because Evil-Ear has a raw steak for breakfast the next day, and Lucia wants to study a beacon with Essek. Oh yes, and Evelyn failed also. That's right. Oh, good times. Um,
Hmm. New
so
Twitch account.
yes. So first we have to go back to Amon to pick up our airship, and then we have to go to Craghammer and submit proof of job completion so we can get paid because we're broke because we spent everything on potions so we wouldn't die to Orcus. Um, but we drop off the morb with Liana, and she says she doesn't really know what to do, but she can do some studying, and we ask about consecution and if we can use that to like heal or rebirth the soul, and she's like maybe, but you'll probably have to ask the Bright Queen because she's the one who knows all the consecution stuff. Um, yes. So get to Amon. But yeah, Laura gave us some wine beating Orcus. She's like, "Good job, you killed the demon prince. Have some wine." Um, go to Craghammer. Yeah, we got paid. Get some nice cold hard gold. We go to the coast. Oh yeah, and the quadrumvirate like war camp is all cloaked. So we're just like chilling and can't find anyone. But after sending a message to Gunhild, they like open a hole in their cloaking barrier and we fly in. There's a bunch of the quadrumvirate's ships are all there. So there is the Assembly's ship, the Wind of Aeons, main ship of the coast, the Blue Heaven, main ship of the Dynasty, the Everstorm, and the main ship of Uthadern, the Midnight Hammer. Um, Also the Howling Tempest, which is one that we don't recognize. I don't know if we ever. Oh wait, that might be that other ship. Um, let's see. So we go to a war room, meet up with some quadrumvirate people. Yes, okay. I was wondering if I was remembering that right. That's your temporary PC's ship, Howling Tempest. Yeah, so Gunhild debriefs us on the mission. We just casually drop the fact that we killed Orcus. No big deal. Um, and everyone is very confused. Um, Dark Toe, stuff. Um, yeah, so the whole point of this mission is for us to destroy the Broomstone Towers on Dark Toe so that the ship will crash, or the city will crash land. Um, it also has a bunch of air turrets, so we can't like do an aerial assault. So they're gonna drop us off to so TF5 can cause a distraction, so they'll take out the air turrets, and then y'all have to go blow up a tower. Um, Essek gives us a gravitational pulse bomb, which requires a surge of arcane power, aka please use a spell slot to turn it on. And then we head out. And we meet Meadow, who, because Petra does not want to do work for the Quadrumvirate, because, boo, if we're gonna save the world, we're gonna do it on our own missions, not on missions that the Quadrumvirate gives to us. Um, so Petra disappears, and we get to play with Meadow, a pirate Aarakocra. Um, Also, Essek kidnaps Evilier because he needs a tank. I forgot that happened. Um, but yeah, basically we get like airdropped for the most part. We fly out and we're given like sky sails. But I think most of us don't use it because the sky sail requires attunement. So most of us just like fly. Uh, we see Adelon and we get dropped off. We have to fight some Bane soldiers, and I think we saw some. I think we saw some stormtroopers, or are they just like generic pirates? But yeah, we had to destroy some turrets and then run up the beach. Um. Oh yeah, we had to fight the Plank King. Um. And Evilier kind of catches up with us, sort of, but he can't stealth, and so he gets caught by like two of the flying Bane monsters, and he almost dies like 150 feet away or something. But what I think you like had to teleport to get into range of us, and so we could heal you and then fight the other thing. I remember that fight being wild. And there was like a lot of verticality, and we had to like climb ladders and stuff, and Sedge can't climb ladders, so I had to go inside the thing and pop out another door somewhere. Um, but we do beat the Plank King. Lucia sets us up the bomb and blows up the Broomstone Tower. We get evacuated. Uh, go back home. Ah, yes. So Petra left to do Marcus research because she's not gonna be a government worker, soldier. Um, so she's made some ideas. I think she was going to talk to the queen about it. Um, yes. Especially because, as with Rux being a melee PC too, like, not having any sort of wings was. But to be fair, while on Sedge, I had like 50 feet or 100 feet movement speed with dash. And back in the good old days when I would get hasted and just run like, what, almost 200 feet around. Bonus action dash. This is fun. Um, let's see. So, oh yes. So Lucia talks to Essek about studying the beacon because she is a good student now. Um, Petra and Rux talk about asking the Bright Queen to use the beacon as a way to consecute Marcus. Um, and Evelyn's Orcus influence manifests in her getting really angry and beating up a client. She gets jailed. Oh yes, Evilier gets impulsively gets 2 tattoos. The very metal TF5 script, and the group beating up Bane on his like bicep. Um, let's see. Rux asks Adelon for help fighting Vess, and talks to Gunhild about her promotion. Petra talks to the Queen about the beacon. Queen tells her about her daughter is hush hush, but also like not. I don't know. That was a very weird like. Oh, a Bright Queen has a daughter. Everyone knows that, but also need to know basis only. Um, yeah. Um, he also offers to learn how to do the consecration ritual. Um, because the queen is going to retire after the war, and her daughter is too young. So Petra is like, "Yes, I will be your pope." Um, and she brings up the like Marcus Soul beacon concept. The queen agrees. Um, not entirely sure how it'll work, but willing to help. Let's see. Yes, Rux finally tells Roz, and she doesn't like it. So she runs away. Um, Yana messages Rux about Evelyn becoming violent, and so go to visit her and try to greater resurrect her, and it fails. And Evelyn like beats up Petra, and then she does it again, and then it works. And then we realize that wait, what about the others? And then Evilier and Lucia immediately run away. Okay. And so we have a fight on the street. Then the cops come. Um, I think we end up curing Lucia, but we don't cure Evilier. But we like restrain him. And so they both get taken to prison. and there's this whole like multi-interrogation, questioning, something something thing. Um, we give our side of the story, and we're like, so we killed Orcus, and his influence is sort of corrupting the minds of our friends. And the guard is like, "You killed who now?" But we were being zone of truth, and we clearly weren't lying. And so they're like, "Okay, these god killers." Um, and while this was happening, Evilier was trying to make a deal with some dwarf, some crazy criminal dwarf in the freaking in the jail cell across from him, while Lucia is like trying to convince the guard that Evilier is gonna try to break out. The guard is like refusing to listen to him. Um, so yeah, after like the guard captain gets um gets done talking to Rux and Liana, he goes to question Evilier, and Evilier tries to break free, but I think Lucia like disables the magic manacles or the anti-magic manacles that are on her. She like hold persons him or something. I think. I don't remember exactly how that happened. But yes, everyone gets released later. Um, I think Evelyn gets put on like house arrest for a while. We get home, and Rux gets a ransom note from Vess, who has kidnapped his father. So we immediately have to go to figure out where Rastum Den is. Um, so for this, let's see. Moderate, slight downtime all of a sudden. Um, Petra's Petra's brother visits, or does Petra visit her brother?
Oh,
Um, but they talk about Petra's mom and fighting a god. You visit him. Okay. Um, and this is when the Bane storm starts, right? So we teleport over to Turok's village to go pick up Roz. Tell her everything. She is unhappy. Um, we ask like three different people about where Rastum Den is because none of us know, none of us can investigate, and between all three, we do get figure out where it is, but it took asking like a member of the Cerberus Assembly and Mom Thalis and Yana for like information on this thing. Um, but yeah, we end up. I think what we do is we teleport to Rexentrum and just cloud over. Um, and then along the way, we meet up with Adelon and his two dragon friends. Um, we find the place. We split up. Half the group is going to sneak in. The dragons are going to go on patrol, and then Rux and Roz walk through the front door. Um, this ends up being a whole thing about the outside party trying to figure out how they're gonna sneak in. Is there like turrets and stuff? Um, they end up using the dragons as a distraction. They sneak in. Meanwhile, uh, Rux is brought to the basement, and uh, Rux's dad is like unconscious in some force field thing. Um, they try to take Roz away. Start to fight. Rux, I finally get to use the flute that Adelon gave us way back when, and I just summon Adelon straight to the basement. Um, the rest of the group like dashes their way through, and so Rux has to survive like 2 rounds or something by himself with Adelon against 4 or 5 mobs plus Vess plus what's her face? Um, which got really risky, but they got in. Um, Danica, that was her name. Uh, that was a good fight. Um, a couple people got like wall of force separated, and we had to do a bunch of. There was a lot of like moving around and trying to stay close to Vess and Danica so they couldn't move around and do whatever. Eventually, we got them. Roz broke free, was able to help. Danica used. Not Danica. Vess used Meteor Swarm on us, because of course. Um, and Petra died. A whole meteor. Um, Technically she wasn't supposed to because we forgot about Death Ward, but it made for good drama, so it was cool. Oh yes, the best thing about this fight was the long range counter spell. Um, cause there was this. I forget what Vess was trying. Oh, Vess was gonna disintegrate Rux. Yes, and um, um, I'm pretty sure it was Petra tried to counterspell Vess, and either Vess or Danica counterspelled Petra, and um, Lucia was down the hallway, and she was behind a wall of force. So she was farther than she should have been to be able to counterspell, and she had no context as to what was happening because the wall of force prevents like sound from going through. But she saw things happening, and she has distance spell. So she was able to distance spell, counter spell from like double the distance, and I'm pretty sure she nat 20'd that. It was so good. Um, but yes, Vess ended it all with a meteor swarm. I think she killed herself with it. I can't quite remember, but yes, Petra straight up died because um she was at like 15 HP or something, and that rolled really well for the meteor.
Oh God, I'm having more flashbacks.
Yes. And so, oh man, Evil-Ear had to res her
Uh,
because I don't think Val has Vivify, and so that was a whole thing to do.
yeah, if I could add, like, I still feel really shit about this because like I was not prepared to get real deep into character that night because I think we didn't have to do the resurrection until like midnight. So by that point, I was pretty out of it. So getting hit with "Hey, evil there," get emotional. I was just like, I can't do that right now.
Yes, that was that was really rough. Oh yeah, 2 HP too. And I very specifically remember you like not accepting a heal or not like healing yourself and choosing to move instead. But yeah, that was an intense fight. And then after all that, we got a bunch of lore from the research they were doing at this place. Um, they had like developed nukes basically, and they had a bunch of weapons that could destroy souls, much like the shard blades. So we took all that research and then destroyed the place. Um, there's this creepy thing in Rux's dad's body that's keeping him unconscious. So we performed surgery on a grape and like sliced the thing out of him. Um, um, let's see. Oh, he wakes up and he's mostly fine. Um, oh yeah, Petra has a bit of a post-death crisis. Um, she has a talk with Liana. Oh, everyone gets so emotional in this session after because Petra dying was so unexpected.
I mean, it was mostly an entire session of crying about Petra.
Yes.
That was like 3/4 of the session.
So Liana is like, "Hey, are you okay?" And then Evilir's like, "That didn't go well, but I'm glad you're fine." And then Rux is like, "Thanks for saving my dad." And so we all drink and be merry. Um, Lucia does some spring cleaning and finds a bunch of stuff from when she was dating Zunala. Um, oh yes, Rux starts telling everyone about the Raven Queen stuff. Evilir does not put two and two together and thinks that he's just gonna be working overtime. Let's see. Val visits Varen at the Exemplar. Checks in on knights and stuff. She accidentally talks about Marcus to Kayla. Um, ponders the fact if the morb is appropriation. Um, she explains the morb to Varen. Um, trauma dumps a little bit about the Petra death, and he comforts her. Lucia annoys Essek as she has to establish dominance as the most important sibling. Um, Petra talks with Liana about Deathmore.
Best
Uh,
friend triangle.
Evil Ear makes a job offer to all the guards
Mm.
about the coast stuff. Um, oh yeah, Petra and Evil-Ear go beat up some myriad dudes. They go
Yeah.
back to Petra's hometown.
Could Evelyn Steph get in here and roll some like persuasion checks?
um, let's see. Rux tells Vezdar and Mogul about the stuff. They figure out that that's why Roz has been missing. Um, and Rux brings up his idea about the fifth foundation, which I magically got them to agree to work on for him after he leaves. Oh yes, and Evil buys tickets for Toy Story.
That's a whole plot point we dropped because you guys went to the show and you thought Evil Air was gay.
Yes, that was very good. Let's see.
Uh, we'll need to address that at some point. Probably during the Q&A.
Eventually, yes. That'll be a fun one. Rux tries to do some Fifth Foundation connection stuff, introduces Vezdar to Gunhild, tries to talk to Imathon, but he thinks that having public backing from one part of the Quadrumvirate isn't great, so you're on your own. But he does offer land, so that's one thing. She files a report on all the stuff from Rastum Den and has a game night at the Thalos house. Also reminisces about the good old days with Zunala and cleans up some graffiti on her house. Rux. Oh, the Rux and Lucia talk was so good. Um, Asking about Lucia's plans, and Lucia kind of wondering whether she's going to ascend and become God or just try and rebirth the Luxon. And then Rux telling her about the Raven Queen stuff and the whole discussion about like the Luxon being very pro-choice and the Raven Queen being very pro like destiny and fate. That was a very good discussion. Um, and we convinced Lucia to believe that she has friends, which was very important.
Yeah,
Um,
we convinced her that she had friends.
yes,
Clearly, she didn't have friends before then.
too busy being the Lightborn.
Jesus doesn't have time for friends.
Nope, really not.
Excuse me, I need to put my snake away.
Okay. Um, Rux has a vision of like some spirits, and the Raven Queen saying stuff about duty and responsibility, etc., etc. Evil talks to the Queen about borrowing the guards, taking them off her regime. Um, Rux has some city dates with Gunhild. Flies around with Adelon. Um, Petra goes on a joyride. Oh man, of the airship with Val. Oh, I forgot about this. Um, Petra and Val bond a little bit, and they scratch up the ship a bunch, and then Val like illusions it so that it doesn't look all scratched up. and Rex never catches it because it like lasts a week. Um, Lucia and Petra have a good bonding discussion. Um, this was good too, realizing that they're pretty similar in how um, Lucia feels all pressured because Lightborn and thinking about death and stuff. Um, and Petra's giving her like point of view about life and how Lucia has changed as a person. Um, Rux tells Val about the Raven Queen stuff, and she is the only one that catches that Rux is starting to regret, or kind of regrets. Um, but she accepts it. And we're getting close to the end. 149. Let's see. More Petra Lucia Morb research. Oh yes, this is when Lucia permanently loses a spell slot to prevent the Raven Queen from pulling the rest of Marcus's soul away. Um, Lucia and Evilier hang out. They buy ice cream together, and Lucia buys Evilier some new clothes.
This is exactly what happens when I hang out with my coworkers. There's no beer involved.
You just buy ice cream and get clothes for each other. Um, Rux sets up his dad as like an associate of Curvin's in his blacksmith shop. Um, oh yeah, Petra gets Rux some vermouth or pooth. Um, and gives him a letter. Talk about home and like found family, Marcus, and traveling. A whole bunch of stuff. Rux tells her about the Fifth Foundation. Um, they talk about legacy. Um, Rux notices the Bane storm and the cracks forming Vine Gate. Lucia finally has the game night at Thalos Manor, and Mom Thalos beats everyone. Um, Lucia gives Varen some of her old stuff from when she was Lucian. They do karaoke, and Mom Thalos gets a little bit soft, just a little bit. Let's see. Montage Rux stuff. Tells a party about the Fifth Foundation. Writes out his will. Commissions a painting to be seen later. Leaves some letters with clips. Lucia hangs out with Val, and they work on the garden. They talk about how much Val has grown, and Val like being the leader of the knights and stuff. Um, Petra continues to do social work. Petra is a power for the people. Um, Petra's family comes to visit, which is kind of awkward, but up working out. Mom has divorced, kicked out the dad. Um, Petra helps her to get over the emotions of it, and they talk about death. As Petra, that's what Petra's been talking about to everyone lately. Um, she tells her brother to go touch grass and make some friends. Um, and then drunk Toy Story with Evil-Ear. Um,
That's a plot point we need to revisit.
yes. So as this happens, Evil-Ear gets whisked away to the Moonweaver. He professes his new oath, and trades out his only warlock level to become a
Yeah,
full level 20 paladin.
a little bit of insight into this moment. Jeb had told me about a week out to prepare a new oath when I like brought about my idea of what I wanted to do. And so Jeb was like, "Yeah, prepare a new oath," and I was just like, "Well, I'm not going to do that, but this is what I want to say." Leading into this moment, that was the entire thing I focused on. So I said that, and Jeb was like, "Okay, now say that oath," and I was just like, "Here are words."
Yes. It was a really good moment though. Like,
No, I feel like what he needed to say to like convince the Moonweaver to give him that extra push was more important than the actual oath,
yeah.
especially since we consider that Evil-Ear is sort of an idiot anyway.
Right. But he's already had so much character growth, and this these like last two downtime sessions really just pushed it over the edge. Like, you can really tell that he's changed and stuff. Um so yeah, new oath, new and improved elder champion Evil-Ear, and everyone misunderstands and think that Evil-Ear is gay, which was very funny.
Evil-Ear is a very proud man, and just not proud in the way that everyone else is assuming.
Yes. Um we have another party at Evelyn's house as uh Petra tells Evelyn that she died. And she gets mad because, as they do, um, and we just have a nice drunk night together. The Pina Colossus, best thing ever. Um, let's see. Do some shopping. We catch up, or we stock up on potions, and Evelyn gets rings for all of us for that one spell. Um, we have a day at Val's farm. Thalos siblings versus Val siblings party games. Um, Kayla asks Petra about the morb. Um, Evelyn and Petra argue about chili dogs. Okay.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Um, Val talks to her parents about fighting a god. We have our heroes feast, and the divine gate breaks. So we're in the end game now. As soon as morning comes, we are sent off to Rexcentrum, and we have our final war meeting. So all of basically all of our allies are here, are split between here and the Arbor Exemplar. There's a large air force that has begun to assault the Arbor Exemplar. Meanwhile, Bane's power and influence manifests itself as Lysandra over in Rexentrum. She offers us one last chance to surrender, and we very much say no. Yes, we talk over Lysandra a lot. She does some psychic stuff to us because we respect her. And then she leaves after giving her monologue instead of allowing us to give our monologue, and so we make fun of her. Um, Queen's a bit depressed, but
Mm.
Petra gives her a pep talk. Val talks to the knights and gives them a pep talk. Um, Rox gives Gunhild a pep talk. Everyone gets pep talks. And then we do a bit of a skill challenge, making our way to the gates. We help some Quadrumvirate soldiers as they're assaulted by all of these undead and Bane soldiers. And then the final fight begins. Fight Lysandra.
We
Honestly,
fight Sandra.
Lysandra was a very forgettable fight. I don't know about you guys, but I do not remember a lot about this fight at all. Like,
Uh,
she was there. Like, I don't remember any mechanics, anything special. Like, we just fought her and then she died.
uh, uh, I'm blurring it all together here. Lysandra was Bane phase 1, right?
Yes. Oh, yes, Alpha
Uh,
Strike.
yeah. Uh, my recollection. So going into this fight, given what I had just traded my powers over for, I was expecting to play a much more defensive role, and then I spent most of the fight eating dirt.
Yes.
So that's what I remember. A mouthful of mud.
So,
She had a lot of defensive ability. She was a tough opponent, but she really didn't have any chance of taking us down. She was just kind of just like whittling us away for the next fight.
yeah. It was very obviously one of those fights just meant to drain resources and stuff. Um, the main thing I remember was um, she didn't even give us the chance to kill her. She sacrificed herself to open the Bane portal, and so phase two was the pretty memorable. So we fight
Oh,
manifestation of Bane himself on the material plane.
in my opinion, that was the worst of the three Bane segments.
200-foot giant form.
Because like towards the second half, we were all going down literally every other round.
Yeah, this fight was intense. Um, I do remember Eviliri getting chucked onto an airship like 100 feet away. That was fun.
Yeah, yeah. Getting chucked out of fights was basically my role in the first two fights.
Yes, you didn't get to attack until like four or
I
five rounds in.
I think in the first two Bane fights, I hit probably three times.
But I will say, you falling into a tree and then using tree stride was hilarious.
Honestly, that is tree stride is a very situational ability, and using it like that, chef's kiss.
Yes, beautiful. Getting puked out of a tree next to Lucia. All of the raid actions too. This fight was really fun because we had abilities that we could call on all of our allies to do. So there was like the Uthadern ship that would like do an airstrike. You'd call on the Bright Queen to do like this huge gravity sinkhole, basically. Uh, Cerberus Assembly did like a giant fireball. Um, the dragons swooped in for like a multi attack. Very cool. Um, but yeah, it was a lot of back and forth. Um, we got very lucky in that. So one of the raid actions was a magical short rest, and we had to be within like a 20-foot radius because it would teleport everyone in a certain radius. And so at the start of the fight, we all spread out because we didn't want to get um, like AoE'd. But halfway through the fight, we were like, okay, we got to start doing this. And it took us 2 rounds to all get close enough that we could do it. And it was very close because I think there was one point where was it phase 2 or phase 3 when he was like gonna punch like Evil-Ear who was down or something, and um
I want to say that was phase two because I think we only went down a couple times in phase three.
yeah, because I know this definitely happened in phase 3, but I feel like there was something very similar in phase 2 where it was like, okay, we have everyone is like one hit except for Evil-Ear who just got healed. And so Evil-Ear needs to face tank this hit while everyone else gets close. And we managed to get everyone in, and everyone is like less than 30 HP. And we managed to pull it off. We got the short rest. Everyone came back to full health. Um,
Regardless of the specifics of it, phase two was very close to a TPK.
yes, phase 2 was rough. And then we come back, and Essek is like making death saves
Like
because
we got out of phase two and we got that full like long rest. I was like, oh thank God.
yes,
'Cause we were if we had gone into that next fight without a full heal, we would have died.
yeah,
Our resources were expended. Like we were all maybe at a quarter HP at best.
yes. It really pushed us. But that was that short rest was exactly what we needed to get through the second phase. Because I think 1 or 2 rounds after that, we managed to um, take him down. And so after that fight, um, oh man, um, after that fight, so Bane like melts into this red energy, and um leaves his armor behind, and there's like a portal in the distance. So he is running away back into the what astral plane, the divine realm, past the divine gate or something or another. And so we chase after him. We get surrounded by all of these different lights, and we all get a vision from our gods. Um, so up here, um, yeah. So Evil-Ear gets a vision of the Moonweaver, who is in like a very like old grandma state because she's given him so much of her energy. Um, Rux sees the Raven Queen without her mask for once, trying to protect souls from Bane's energy. Surprisingly, Val does not see the Wild Mother. Instead, Val sees the Arbor Exemplar in ruins, and um, Varen, Kayla, and Allura are all heavily wounded. Um, two Star Destroyers are about to like crash land into the ground. Both Lucia and Petra get a vision of Bahamut praising their actions, but asking if they've made a decision and know what they're gonna do. Um, with Bane's Shard of Divinity. And after accepting their offer, we're all given a magical long rest. And we appear in Bane's throne room. Um, he's got a bunch of shard blades on the wall behind him, which really makes Val mad. And we fight.
Well, before that, Evil Air immediately begins his very prepared heckling routine.
Yes, the heckling is very strong in this one. But this fight was also quite crazy. There was a lot of lightning, a lot of really strong hits. Um, I mean, it came down to the wire.
It came down pretty close. We figured out towards the end that the special abilities we had with the
We're
god
definitely what we
with
should have
with
been doing
with
from the
with,
start.
with the god energy we were inhaling gave us some pretty beefy special attacks.
Yes,
Uh, were pretty potent. So I think was it Rux that landed the first one?
yes.
Yeah.
So we spent the whole time like trying to take him on the regular way, playing it pretty defensively, and things weren't doing great. We realized that if we hit him and do a certain amount of damage, he would bleed like divine essence that we could pick up, and each bit of essence that we got would stack and give us a couple benefits. But once we used, if someone got 5 of them, they could use a special ability, and we're like, oh, we should do that. And so we started trying to do that. Evilier was going in with his smites to try and hit that damage threshold, and we had like this plan set up, but then Petra went down because she was heckling Bane, and so she couldn't hand off her divine essence, and so Rux had to like take it off her dead body. But Rux was able to use it, and it was this very cinematic, um, like summoning of the Raven Queen, and she came in with like a scythe, and Rux was doing all these speedy attacks,
Mm.
and the Raven Queen was following up with her scythe, and it all did double damage. Um,
But Bane wasn't quite down yet after that. So
yes,
we were all trying to scheme about how we could land one more special attack, but it wasn't in the picture. So we all just started smacking away at him, and then he started running away because it was the end of the line. And then
yes.
one of us, I don't remember who, dropped that crucial uh, hold person or something to that effect, and then we finished the job.
So he. So I think at one point he used an action surge, which gave him 8 attacks.
Oh, yes, yes, he did.
He definitely should have killed Evilier at one point, but Petra intimidated him, question mark, into attacking her instead.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what happened because Evil was definitely going to die.
Yes, because he had like 3 attacks, and you were like 20 HP or something.
I believe Evil was already down, so
Oh
like
yeah,
two more attacks would have killed him.
yeah. Um, but then he went into like this raid-wide AOE special attack thing where he summoned a bunch of clones of himself, and we had to um kill as many clones as possible because he'd do damage equal to depending on how many clones were still alive. We were spamming all of our AoEs. Val used Firestorm. Um, I did a whole bunch of stuff, and we had just like healed up, and that brought everyone down to like a third health. But that shrunk him down. It used up like all of his power, and he started walking back to his throne. And Jeb was like, if he makes it back to the throne, he's gonna heal. And so, but he had like teleported 50 feet away or something. And so we were all making a mad dash to try to catch up to him. I think,
Did I use my channel divinity and snaring strike?
um,
I don't remember who exactly like wiped out his mobility.
so you tried to attack him and you missed. And I think what happened was, Lucia used like hold monster,
Uh
and then you went up and restrained him. And then
yeah, that sounds right.
Lucia dimension doored over with Val, and Val finished him off with Nightblood. And so that was another super cool cinematic ending where Nightblood just comes in and absorbs all of his energy.
Hi, NBC, ABC, Disney. I like money.
Give us money. Turn this into a show.
Honestly, I'm a whore. Just pay me. I'll take it. You don't need to pay me much.
And that was Bane defeated. Got a bit of a mini epilogue that session where, let's see, Elir returns a bit of his power back. Moonweaver. Um, Lucia is suddenly at the Divine Gates, and she is confronted with that choice. And what she decides to do is she gives up her boon. She focuses on. She thinks of Marcus. She thinks of all of us, all of our gods, and um, the Luxon. And she focuses all the energy of that shard into those things and
And
disappears.
and now we are into the sad final three sessions.
Yes.
Eh,
Um, the beacon spits out Marcus. We get saved from the collapsing realm of Bane by a Wild Mother portal. That brings us to the Arbor Exemplar. And Lucia wakes up in the Ghostlands with a sassy young child. So Lucia realizes that she doesn't have her powers, and she's got this kid with her, this 10-year-old who, spoiler alert, is basically the manifestation, the rebirth of Bane,
I'm still saying they should have killed the kid, but whatever.
but as a fresh new babe, un uncorrupted by the world's influence, and so Lucia basically takes them in. Um, at the Exemplar, the Raven Queen comes to collect, and Rux says his teary goodbyes. Um, Evelier tries to fight the Raven Queen and fails terribly. Um, Rex says goodbye to all of his significant NPCs and the rest of the party and disappears off with the Raven Queen, taking
Not before he
Sedge
go there,
along.
busts his face for eternity.
um, Val and Lucia realize that Baron has died. Um, Val hides the shard blades that Bane had off in the bag of holding, and Lucia is teleported back to us again by the Wild Mother. The party mourns for a bit. They figure out what happened with Varen. Um, they get home and everyone makes a toast to Rux. Marcus gets caught in the castle after being spit out by the beacon and is promptly arrested for trespassing. Um, Evalier closes everything out with the Moonweaver, exchanging all of his power for fighter levels. But he gets to keep his sword, so he has a little bit of magic still.
He gets to keep most of his sword. He keeps sword granted him several abilities. He only held on to the ability to summon it and the ability to face step. There
Okay.
were several other abilities. He was just like, yeah, I'll make do, but yeah.
um. Oh boy, all of this funeral prep stuff is super depressing. Um,
Yeah. And I was probably asleep through half of it
there
because
was,
I had 3 hours of sleep.
yeah, that was a rough day for you. Um, anyway, Petra sort of reconnects. Well, I don't know if reconnect is the right word, but gets the Thalos siblings to all like come to terms with their emotions, as they were all just hiding out in their room. So she got Liana, Essek to go downstairs and socialize. Um, Elora is staying with Varen's body. And we also realized that Elora and Varen were twins. Did not know that, but now we do. Um, oh boy. So Petra has this very dark um, healing moment where she's out of magic, and so the shard of divinity within her sort of crystallizes this wound that Bane gave her. She bonds a little bit with Val as Val tries to heal her up, help her take a bath and ready for bed. Meanwhile, Orcus's influence um, gives Marcus nightmares, and he ends up breaking out of prison. Um, he gets very emo over his dragon child, and does a blood ritual in the alley to resurrect her. Um, Queen messages Petra in the morning, saying that it appears the orb ritual was a success. Petra asks her to call off the guards, and she goes to find him. Our boy Marcus is finally back. Yes, she finds him in like the market district or whatever. Um, has brings him a change of clothes, and gets him back home. Castle fantastic. Neon signs and everything. Has lunch with Val, Lucia, and Evalier. Very interesting first impressions. Our boy is back. Yes, immediately prank Clarence. Um, very good, very fun. Uh, Funeral prep at Thalos Manor. Mom Thalos is not happy that there are outsiders, but whatever. Val helps to cheer up Alora, and Marcus talks with the Bane child, who has now taken to calling themselves Ada. And we spend the rest of the session making Resident Evil jokes, calling her Ada Wong. Um, we all go to the funeral, and Mom Thalos tries to keep us out. But Val sneaks in, and Petra is like, well, technically, I'm family by engagement. And I don't think Marcus went. I think Evelier went, but stayed low key. And everyone gives their speeches to Marcus's, or not Marcus, to Varen's casket. Mom Thalos gives a very disingenuous speech, and then immediately leaves after.
Sounds like sounds like Mom Thalos.
Yeah, as she does. Um. Oh yes, Marcus has a very sad moment where he he goes to uh Rux's room and has a air quotes talk with him, um, saying that he's back and asking about how things have been. Um, Small scene of Rux leading some souls through the Shadowfell. Evalier makes lunch for the party and apparently doesn't know
Lunch.
what a salad is.
Hey, there were all the components of a salad. There might have just been too much dressing.
Too much dressing and half a stick of butter because Marcus mentioned that he likes butter.
Someone in real life would eat that. I wouldn't, but someone.
Um, Clarence passes out Brux's letters. He left letters for everyone in the party, and the painting that he commissioned shows up. A lovely little painting of TF5 along with Marcus and everyone's significant other NPC.
Crying in the club.
um, Petra brings Marcus over to Evelyn's party at Evelyn's. Um, it's been a whole week and Petra hasn't talked to Evelyn, and Evelyn is like, "Oh, good, you're alive." Uh, Catch up with Marcus. Uh, Basically adopts him. Um, Val goes to Rexentrum to talk to Mom Thalos, and they argue a bit, but Val is very convincing, and she plants her seed. Lucia, on the other hand, having realized that her powers are not going to be coming back, basically pens a retirement letter. Um, Says she's gonna go travel the world because clearly she can't be the Lightborn anymore. Um, Evilier leaves without saying goodbye and heads straight to the coast. And now we get into future stuff. So future of the epilogue. Um, Marcus asks about lightsaber stuff. It's a TLDR on Spren, Knights, all this other things. And reconnects with Kayla, which is nice. Evilier sets up a base of operations on the coast. Um, Establishes a network of people. Makes himself known to the authorities there, but continues to act independently. And begins a tradition of spending the nights at Thuriel's place. Um, on the anniversary of when they met. Marcus sticks around for a while, but he eventually moves out to Uthadern, train that dwarf kid that he made a promise to way back when. And
That's what Cassian
also,
ruined his life.
yes, he also makes amends with Adelon for letting his dragon child die. Meanwhile, Evelyn lives her best life, um, gets everything back together, opens up her own personal shop, has some kids, adopts Marcus, and has grandkids. Um, Sophie, in sort of like an immediate epilogue, um, reunites with um, her commander. Um, and they have a very touching reunion. Um, Calix shows up very briefly. Um, and Petra has a whole uh, very long and involved epilogue. Uh, a lot of social work, setting up memorials in places, helping refugees, doing cleric work, becoming the lead on Consecution. The Queen retires, uh, taking a sabbatical, traveling, helping others, and then setting up shop with Liana. Um, she stays in touch with everyone. Uh, Evalier and Val in particular continue to do stuff with her. And Marcus will constantly message her with a sending stone. And whoop,
Basically
Val
it.
Val leads the knights. Um, she is sad for a while, but she figures things out. She grows into her role and becomes a very good leader. She does some work on the coast. Maybe she works with you there to do this, but she helps find peace for the people who lost their livelihood there to dead horde. Um, Lucia, she travels and eventually makes her way back home. Um, she helps, does a lot of work with kids. Um, gets married to Zunala. Loosens up a bit and finally figures out who she really is outside of the whole Lightborn stuff. Um, Ada disappears after 30 years, menacingly. Unknown what will happen. Um, and Rux continues to fetch souls in the Shadowfell. Um, Evil stops by to visit as after he dies on the way to the realm of the Moonweaver. They share a
He took
moment
a
together.
wrong turn.
Yes, he got lost. And fast forwarding, we see Xandria in a time of innovation and peace and learning, and you see a well-established fifth foundation, um, and close out on a scene of uh, Clarence feeding everyone at the kitchen table in Castle Fantastic as they get together for one of their traditional reunions.
And now, am I supposed to move on with my life?
Somehow, who knows? This has been a long and wild ride, but the adventure is complete. Everyone survived. We all got our quote unquote happy ending.
Ish.
TF5 is finished.